help it because, it's just us. But man, you're looking good, Mama. We're just saying how much these filters are great. Toasted almond. We love
barely any makeup on, so.
You look beautiful. Stay-at-home mom. Just walked on down. Love it.
With my toddlers all day.
Yes, I love it. I'm so glad you're here.
Probably have Cheez-Its on me somewhere. It's all good.
It's all good. All right. Well, I am so thrilled to have my dear friend, and new neighbor, Miss Jen, here. And she is a mom of 2. And her and her husband and their family moved into my neighborhood this summer, which we have a connection.
As a surprise to both of us. We didn't know either of us lived here. Yeah.
I know. And what was so great is we've had a connection for years. Why don't you tell our friends?
Yeah. I taught Amanda's 2 girls in school way back when they were in 2nd grade. So I had both of her girls, and then I worked with you after, right? Or did you come in? We worked together. We worked in the same building.
I came to the school.
Yeah, then you worked in
when
my
you
building.
had Jada. Yeah, in 2nd grade.
So
then
that
I
was
many
years ago, but maybe like 10.
Yeah.
At this point.
Oh
yeah.
my goodness.
It's been a long time.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Well, she's another one of those Insta friends, just Insta like sister soul sisters, whatever you want to call it. Just always have just been drawn to each other when we see each other, and we could just talk for hours. So I love her. She's just, you can tell, just such a radiant light. And a couple months ago now, would we say?
Well, here's the story.
Yes.
Are you going to tell the story?
Yes.
Well, Amanda had posted like a little snippet of something on her Instagram about like finances. Yeah. And so since we moved, I've been very like in depth in our finances to make sure we're making enough and what our cash flow looks like and all of that stuff. So I texted Amanda because I wanted to hear like if she had any financial podcast recommendations. And she was like, let's call.
It's like, do I ever have things to talk about?
Ever? Yeah. So I was like, okay, great.
This is my passion.
So that's when you introduced the concept of velocity banking.
Yes.
And it took me a minute to like understand it, and it took several conversations with Amanda to really kind of wrap my head around it because I'd never heard anything like that. I'd grown up with like kind of a conservative mindset with money, and just save, try to not have debt, try to get out of debt if you're in debt. And it's just hard. It's just hard to do that in society now, and especially with like the house market going up, and there's just more debt, and like we needed a van and we couldn't pay for one outright, so we had to like get a car payment. And so, this new way of banking has really revolutionized our finances and kind of opened up this like world of opportunities. So
what, so we had several conversations on the phone, just kind of opening up your mind to a different way to think about it.
Yep.
And then one night I went over to your house and I sat
drew
down.
it out for me because I didn't understand it.
Because it is a concept. I had to really kind of take it in for about a month. So you grasp it a little bit faster.
Oh,
I feel
really?
like,
yeah.
I do.
Nice.
I feel like you were just kind of ready. Some people are just ready for it. Like she knew her budget completely down. They had some money and savings. They had done a really good job with where you're at in life.
Yeah,
you're
you kind of need to already, and we were already kind of doing this, but you have to know like what your income is, what your expenses are each month, like what your cash flow looks like, and then like I had even written down all of our expenses, both fixed and variable, and when they came out of our accounts and which accounts they came out of.
Yes.
So I was like very detailed about all of that, which it was almost like God had set everything up for me in our finances. And I was like, okay, like everything is laid out here. I would like to know more about how we can like just get ahead, because it's hard to just live not paycheck to paycheck, but like all we were doing is like paying and then trying to build savings and then paying our bills and then trying to build savings. And it just kind of felt like, okay, but then what? Like, we're just going to wait till next year when like my husband gets a raise so I was interested in like finding out another strategy for just kind of opening up some more wiggle room so that I can stay. I work 2 jobs now. I worked 3. So I quit one but I just want to be like a more present mom always. And so I'm just always kind of looking for ways that I can not work and stay home a little bit more.
And you're expecting your third.
Yes.
So she is expecting her third. So exciting, growing family.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the things when I got introduced to Velocity Banking. First of all, I too was we were at a point, and I shared this on one of my YouTube videos, where we had been working so hard and so diligently to pay off our debt, that I honestly got a little too fixated on the debt and trying to pay it down, that I almost felt like, well, I see it now. I'm learning more about the laws of the universe, and like what you focus on is going to grow. So now some people this works for, that are really focused. But for me, we just found that the more we focused on debt, then it was kind of like debt just kept coming. We're like, oh my gosh, we just worked this hard. Now we got this $10,000. So defeating when you're just
come to things
all your hard work, and you're putting that money out there to pay it down. And then just in one fell swoop, here's another $10,000 debt. And we were like, we had been working, so hard. So it had really become kind of toxic for me in a way, because I was so, I have that kind of, I can kind of go there. Yeah. I can kind of go with about me. A little bit intense and a little bit focused, which it can be good.
But I do feel like you weren't pushy at all. I was very curious about it and open to hearing. And it sounds like very progressive, like just a more progressive way to look at your finances, and I wasn't against that, but it's almost like, when you have a family and little kids and a house payment and all this stuff, you have to be like, okay, is this the right move for us? Because I don't want to be risky with our finances. You know what I mean? So I asked many, many questions, and I did my own research, and I watched my own YouTube videos that you had recommended. And so I did a lot of stuff like on my own, because I need to do that for myself.
Absolutely. And it has to be the right thing for you.
Yeah, I didn't feel like you were pushing it on me, and if I would have said no, you would
no.
Yeah, and so it wasn't like you were too pushy.
There's nothing I'm gaining from this. You know what I mean? Nothing. I just want to share what's been helpful, right? And to me, it literally, it opened up my mind to a new way to think. Yeah. And it really took me kind of from a scarcity mindset where all I was focused on debt, that literally, Jen, it got to the point, just to be vulnerable here, where it really impacted our marriage, because my husband just felt like, you're not living anymore. Yeah. You're literally just so focused on this debt that I was so tight-fisted, and I didn't want to spend any money because it had to go to debt, and we're not doing the right thing if it's not going to debt. Yeah. And I just had to get free. Yeah. And so when we got this $10,000 unexpected debt at the beginning of 2019, I just went into a dark place for a couple days. Yeah. And literally I was like, there has to be a different way. Right. There has to be a different way. And, we are both believers, and I just really believe, I just cried out to God in that moment, and I was like, God, I need a different way. And YouTube has become a new friend. Yeah. I really call it like YouTube University. I have learned so much. Seriously. I'm not kidding. Many free things. And I happened to stumble upon Denzel. Yeah. Who at that point, he was, he's young. And it was like, I feel like he's a young soul, a young guy, but he's an older soul. He's very wise. Yeah. And I just started soaking up his YouTubes. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what? And so like you, I got sucked in. I just kept watching and watching how instead of having the money go in that linear fashion, right? Now we're using that triangle system where we're able to reuse that same dollar. Are you seeing the power in this? Yes. Multiple times. Yes. So it took me from that scarcity mindset that, oh goodness, once we pay that bill, I can never get that money back. Right. If we make that car payment money's at the bank. I can't reuse that money. Right. Now, using this system. You use your money in 2 or 3 times before it goes out, or however many times. Yeah. It can depend. And for those of you who don't really know what we're talking about, I'll go into a little bit more depth, but please take Amanda some time. I would love to coach. You. I do want to mentor and coach. That is a passion I have. Because when you find something that really truly transforms your life and brings you to a different place, like a different awareness,
it's crazy. It's amazing.
I just had another conversation with a mom today, and she's like, I don't understand how this isn't being taught. So it's something feels almost like wrong about it.
I cannot believe I'm 34 and I've never heard of this before.
And to me, that is so exciting because I feel like that is the kingdom of God, right? Like it's ever expanding, ever growing. And I know for my faith has gone through some changes in the last few years.
Yeah.
And I feel like I had a couple years back had gotten to a spot where I really just had it kind of all boxed up in this neat little package.
Yeah.
And then some things we went through in our society and just lots of different things started waking me up to like, whoa, I am not in agreement with that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it started kind of opening me up to look and to think a little bit differently and to see things from a different perspective.
Yep.
And that's kind of like from that 2016, 17, 18, some things started to shift in my soul that started opening me up to things that I might have never thought about before.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there was an awakening going on in America.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, and so I was more open to receive a different message than I might have been, you know, in 2015.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's part of life.
Well,
We're always
I think that's
growing.
how the Lord works is like you know, I mean, you can hear something a couple times or even read something in scripture a couple times and then all of a sudden it'll like hit you like a ton of bricks, you know,
in a different way.
So it's like, I feel like this is another way that God is providing for our family in a way that is like radically different than I could have imagined. Like I'd never heard of this before, but God had like completely set the stage up in order for us to be ready to do this. So just a little bit more about like my story. We connected, and over the summer I asked her a million questions. I did all my, you know, all the things, and we had just moved into our house in your neighborhood and in our neighborhood, and we had already accumulated equity in our house. So we decided to use a home equity line of credit as our debt weapon. So we opened a home equity line of credit, a HELOC, and then with that and with Velocity Banking strategies, we paid off our van in 1 month, which is a $28,000 debt. That's crazy.
That's huge.
Oh my God.
How many years that was going to take
a teacher and a half. Like we're literally like not making a lot of money. And it's amazing to not have a car payment. And the cool part is we bought our car last November and we paid it off this November. And we have another 6 years on it. We had another 6 years to pay it off.
But now it's paid off.
And now it's paid off. And we probably saved, I want to say like $5,000 or $6,000 in just interest alone that they were taking from, you know, our payments. So
because when and this is a whole other thing with finance that I can do some more training on, but many times the banks in your home mortgage is called amortized debt. So they spread it out over months and months. So obviously you're paying interest. So the beginning years you're like paying a ton of interest,
like a vortex like this, and then at the back end of the loan you start
paying more off.
So
they make all their money. So banks really do want you to keep refinancing because if they can get you to refinance, they make their money in those first, 10 years. So, 3, 4, 5, it just depends. But they make a lot of their money right at that get-go. Yeah. So when you refinance, they're loving that because that's the bulk of your mortgage is getting paid towards interest.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we saved so much money. I mean, I think we're going to maybe pay $250 in interest in the way that we're doing it as opposed to $5,000 to $6,000, which is like money in our pocket. And now we do not have like a car payment. So now we have more cash flow in order to, so a little bit more about me. I am a part-time teacher and a photographer. So as a photographer, my income is variable and we're about to go into a non-busy season. So January through March pretty much is like the non-busy season of photography. So that's kind of one of the reasons why we decided to expedite paying off our van because it would open up a lot more cash flow for us. And we're going to have a baby in May. And so we just would love, and I won't make any money like being on maternity leave because I'm hourly. And then as a photographer, you don't
Make it unless you work.
Can't work. Yeah.
Like, well, I
can't walk, so it's gonna take a couple weeks, I guess, to like learn how to walk and feed my baby.
And chase 2 other little ones around,
It's Jeff's job.
There you go.
But yeah, so we just decided to kind of expedite the process. So I think it happened like really quickly for us, and I don't think it has to happen like that quickly for everyone else.
Absolutely.
But the amount of like freedom that we feel right now, not having a van payment, is just. I mean, we were paying like $500 a month, so that's $500 a month now. That's back in our pockets.
Yes.
I mean, it's crazy. So,
and with the Velocity Banking, one thing we'll mention. So she mentioned they opened up a home equity line, which is the same thing my husband and I did. So out of that line of credit, you take a big chunk of that money and you pay it towards your debt. So they took a big chunk of that money and they paid, like, let's say
$15,000.
$15,000 was their first payment they took out of their home equity line towards their van payment. Okay, so that right away took your van from 28 down to 13,000 left on it.
Yeah,
right.
12, yeah.
And then they were able to dump all their income. Instead of having it sit in their checking account, they take that money and you just deposit it right back into your home equity line. So that
some
debt,
savings too for us.
and they had some savings that they were able to dump instead of just having it sit in the bank earning no real interest. They were able to velocitize, right? Make it speed up their debt payment. And then you keep repeating that cycle. So then, like, the next month, you were like, Amanda, I think
it was 2 weeks. So we did it in the beginning of November, and then we got paid twice in November. And by the second payment, we were down to 0 in the HELOC again. And you were like, sounds like you're ready for another payment. And I was like, cool. I can't wait. And then we discovered a bit.
Yeah.
So.
And then what's really cool is you just keep dumping your income into your home equity line of credit. And then any bills you have to pay, like we personally, pull it out when you need to. So like, this was the big philosophy change or change in our routine. We were anti-debt, right? We had no credit cards. We had no. So what we did is we opened up a credit card when we got our home equity line. And then we started putting all of our bills onto the credit card. So then technically we only had a few bills a month because your credit card payment is only due one time a month. So
you also get points on a credit card,
yes,
as opposed to just paying in cash. So you're actually like making
some money
if you're doing it smart.
Yes, and that's what we've been doing. So we're not using this to go into debt and to go buy. Now we have been able to do some home renovations and things that we wouldn't have been able to do if we didn't know this system. So there has been some fun things that we've been able to do, but knowing this system and how fast we can kind of have that debt paid back down, and then constantly have that cash available again. So like you're getting ready to head into a season where you might not have work. You're not going to have any stress. I'm going to tell you because you have that big line of credit that you can pull from
backup,
and it's kind of a backup.
We're kind of seeing it as our savings.
That's how we did.
Very like low risk to pull out money, and it's very low interest. Like for us, even though the interest rate is like at 9% or something right now, with our $12,000 that we paid the second payment on our van, if we left that in the HELOC for the whole entire year, we would pay under $1,000 of interest. Wow. Whereas we're paying for the van way more than that a year. We were probably paying $1,500 a year, maybe more than that. So it's a pretty low risk situation, and obviously we don't have that in the HELOC anymore. Like we're paying that down. So, and
again, a HELOC is a home equity line of credit. So that's another thing. A lot of people might not be homeowners right now.
Right.
So there is a way you can start this system with credit cards. Okay. Some of you might be like, oh, I don't even have a credit card. So there's all different stages of where people are at. That's where I was saying you were kind of at that point where you were just, you had everything lined up. You were locked and loaded, ready to go. Kind of similar to my husband and I. We were at that point.
We were a really easy success story.
You were. And I'm just so happy for you guys.
I know. I'm
seriously so thrilled.
It was, it's amazing.
It's awesome. Yes, I'm so excited. And if anybody has any questions, please DM me. or write a comment in YouTube, like and subscribe, and put the notification button on, because I'll be sharing more stories, and I would love to help you and work with you.
Please do it. She's amazing.
Oh,
we'll answer every single question that you have.
And if I don't know, I will find out, because I don't know it all. Oh, goodness.
And I probably asked the same question 3 times, and she explained it every time. Did not ever make me feel stupid, and I felt stupid.
And it is complicated, and so
it's important to get it right.
It's important to get it right.
Because if if you don't do your research, if you don't ask the right questions and all of that, it could get you into a bad place. But that's what the banks want. So we're basically like screwing the banks over now, which that's great. Like, I want to screw the banks over. They have so much money.
Because I was telling Jen, when we let our money just sit in our savings account and our checking account, they're taking our money out and they're loaning it out. So like, if I would go to the bank and say, oh, so-and-so bank, I need a loan for a car, they'll be like, no problem. Let's go over to Jen and Jeff's bank. You know what I mean? We're going to take their money and we're going to loan out to you and make interest. And so when I started realizing that, I was like, oh my goodness, that's how the banks do it. And then they're earning interest on my money. So now we're kind of flipping the script.
Totally.
And we're like, we're going to start making some money and making some changes. And for me and my husband, we've been able to take some of this and turn it into real estate and bring in, we're trying to grow some multiple streams of income that we wouldn't have had.
It's a debt consolidation / eradication tool. But then we also long-term, we're going to look at our mortgage and what that looks like, but we're also going to look at some investment opportunities as well, so that we can increase our cash flow and make everything go faster. So that's down the line, but it just opens up a lot more possibility than we had before.
Yes, I felt so locked in before. Now it kind of took me from that scarcity mindset to more of like an abundant, I don't have to worry and I don't have to live in that fear, because I have access to cash when we need it. Right?
Yeah.
So, well, Jen, thank you for sharing your story.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
And like I said, if you have any questions or just want to reach out or just share your story with me, or just say, hey, where could maybe I start with this? Where do I even start? Please reach out to me. I'd love to just have a chat and conversation, very non-threatening. And I'm just here to help and serve. So thank you for watching. The Inspire Her. I forgot to say, welcome to the Inspire Her. All right.
It's good.
All right.